Okay, so look, I know I failed immediately to keep up weekly. I've been pretty busy. I think I've felt pretty busy, and I've also been pretty tired. Uh, but I'm gonna try not make any more excuses past that. I have still been reading though. In fact, I've been getting even more into reading after finishing Red Rising by Pierce Brown. After finishing reading Red Rising, I have been really into reading. I finished it. I loved this book. I loved Red Rising. It was actually really good, and I was kind of perplexed because I had heard that this is kind of like the weakest, at least in the first trilogy. Like the people who I watched review this book and the series, and then overview the series, no spoilers, had talked about how yeah, this one is a little predictable. It's a little it's been done before, you know, and I was just thinking the whole time. I'm like, wow, I maybe it's because I just haven't been reading that. Like I was I was primed to thoroughly enjoy Red Rising. I didn't know how much I would enjoy like the last or the second two thirds of the book. Um, it's this is when there are like trials. So they go into the school and then they're put into the trials of like, hey, you're going to be this kingdom and you have to enslave and take over the other kingdoms. And I think there's what 12 other kingdoms. I don't know. But I wasn't expecting to enjoy that much because I was like, this is weird. This feels like a completely different book, and I think that is a problem. Definitely, like it does feel like it goes from this. Okay, we're gonna start a revolution into like, or like we're infiltrating and we're gonna start a revolution, and this is what's gonna happen, and then it changes into this kind of like nearly medieval, not maybe not medieval, but like nature. It could have been anywhere. It could have been on Earth. This setting after they get into the school, it could have been anywhere in the world in on Earth, and I would have believed it. It didn't matter that it was on Mars for the most part. There were still technologies like the ion blade and things like that, and and that still it still kept reminders, but really until like the last two three chapters, it didn't it stopped mattering that this was a revolution story, an infiltration story, a um story about this one person and his quest for revenge. And I think that actually they make a really interesting twist, not maybe not twist, it's not a reveal, it's just, oh, this is what's going to happen in the next book, that at the start of the book you would never imagine. uh Now I'm being a little down on the part where these trials happen. I actually loved it. I thought the kingdoms and the war, I was like, he had me hooked on this, and I was like, I had to know what's next. It was really well done for me. I was really excited to just see what would happen in the whenever this house and this house met, or like what is this jackal. And then there were some great reveals and great twists within that little section, or it's a pretty big section of the book, but there were some great reveals and moments. And oh man, the main thing was the characters. It's actually, looking at it now, it's not that long of a book, and it's actually pretty interesting. 382 pages. I really got into the characters. I do need them to become more fleshed out in the next few books because they they served their purpose in this book, but they could do way more. And I think that's where uh, I think it would be really interesting for a lot of things like um, there's Mustang, who, like, I really like Mustang. She's really fucking cool. And I really invested in that dynamic between Mustang and Darrow, or Darrow, like Marrow, Darrow. Um, I really like that. I wasn't expecting that. I was like, "There's wow, that happened really fast." It kind of did happen fast. Uh, sort of. It happened within like the span of a chapter that they're like, "Oh yeah, this is happening," and I was like, "Okay, I like it. I do like it, and that's fine. If I like it, what does it matter?" I really enjoyed the characters. Some of the big moments were like really great. Like I thought they were really well done, um, and I had a lot of it had a lot of momentum behind certain sequences that I was like, it had me going. I was like, oh, let's go. You know, I was really excited. I was excited for what happened next. The last half of this book, I feel like I like flew through, which doesn't hasn't happened for me really. It happened for me in one thing, um, that I'll get to later. Actually, interestingly enough. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I'm really excited for the second book. People really love Golden Sun, the second book in the series. I'm not gonna read it next. Um, I have a lot to get to. I might buy it and read it before I finish this. I actually I know I will because I'm really invested in Red Rising, and I'm not going to deprive myself of reading the next book for that long. I'm really excited for Golden Sun. Um, yeah, I think that that's Red Rising. I do love this book. It was really fun. It was probably like a 4 star. I think I gave it on Goodreads. I think that's fair. I don't think it did anything that was like magnificent. I wasn't blown away by this book. It didn't make me cry. It made me hype sometimes. I was pretty excited by a lot of the sections, but you know, also one thing, really dark. It's a pretty dark book. It got darker than I thought, which I was like not. I mean, I wasn't expecting it. I knew it was kind of dark. I heard it, and I was like, okay. I mean, I mean, it kind of looks like a YA ish novel. It's not. It's straight up like terrible things. People do terrible things. The main character does terrible things in this book. Not as much as like um, some people. Tactus, or is it Titus? One of them does horrible things, and it's a big moment that like hey, this terrible person did this terrible thing. How are you going to deal with it? And I wasn't expecting it. I wasn't expecting it. But yeah, that's Red Rising. Really enjoyable. Can't wait for the second book. Yeah, I mean, it has been a while. It's been like what at this point of recording, like 9 or 10 days since my first uh video. That does suck. I do apologize. I'm still gonna try to upload as much as I can, or as often as I can, consistently, and I'm still excited for reading, and I'm still doing it. And I will get into the book that I've been reading since then. It's not up there, so you might know what it is. I'll talk about it last because it's what I'm focusing on right now. I could not help myself. I couldn't. Uh, Something that really I'm bad at is controlling like the need to put more things on myself. So what I did is I have one, two, three, four, five, kind of six books. Five, six maybe if you count it. I kind of count it. Books that I've added to this pile. They're not on here. I'm gonna reveal them. I'm gonna talk about them. And this is the first one. Fighting Words. Boom. Fighting Words. Apparently, it is a Newbery Honor book. My wife loves this book. She said, "You maybe should read this book." She really liked it. It seems like an easy read. The words are the. I turned to a random page and I saw a word, and it's my wife's name. It's my wife's name. Maybe that's why she likes it. I don't know. She says it's really good. Fighting Words by Kimberly Brubaker Bradley. I don't know. It looks. I think it's a kid's book, or at least like maybe like a middle grade book. I heard it gets pretty serious in certain aspects. It's only like 257 pages of pretty big writing. I bet I'll get through this in no time. Uh, hopefully. But yeah, fighting words off of the recommendation of my wife. I trust her with everything, so I would put this on the list as well. She also put what is the other book that she mentioned that's on here because of her? Oh, The Body Keeps the Score. That's another one of hers. Anyway, Lord of the Flies, another shorty. This one is less than 200 pages. Less than 200-page book. Man, I want a little more small books because I don't have that many. So if I need like a little break, read Lord of the Flies, read Fighting Words, you know. Um, However, I couldn't help myself, so I added a bunch of big books. A giant book that looks wonderful. It looks great. Needful Things. Stephen King. By the way, what a great hardback, actually. SK. There's nothing on the back, but and I will probably take the sleeve off. Although I do like this sleeve. It almost looks really great, honestly. Needful Things, a book that I've been pretty interested in for a while now. I was considering getting the audiobook, but I will feel less obligated since I have the real physical book, and so I probably won't. I don't get credits anymore through something. But yeah, Needful Things, a Stephen King book of another small town. Actually, not another small town. It's Castle Rock again. I haven't. Have I read a Castle Rock book? I don't think so. Cujo's Castle Rock. I haven't read that. I don't think I've read a Castle Rock book. So I'm gonna start with the last one, I guess. It seems like something I would enjoy. It's not really talked about much in like Stephen King's discography. I guess it's bibliography. I was trying to think of the word. It's not talked about much. This is heavy. I'm gonna put it down. It's not talked about much, but like everything I hear about it is great. It's like, yeah, it's actually one of Stephen King's best small town books or stories, and I love Stephen King in a small town. I kind of consider Stand to be a small town story in the second half. If you read The Stand, you know what I'm talking about. Um, and I loved it. And I love Under the Dome. I love Under the Dome. I love it more than other Stephen King fans, I think. It's usually rated like kind of middle of the pack. And like, it's like okay. It's not bad. It's okay. I love Under the Dome though. I'm also interested in a few other Stephen King books that aren't up here. I have Gerald's Game, Misery, and Night Watch or Night Shift. Yeah, Night Shift, Misery, and Gerald's Game. I am interested in Pet Cemetery, especially, but also Salem's Lot. I'm really interested in those. Salem's Lot for like one of his first like small town stories with and I'm like, oh, that just sounds so good to me. I love his small town stories. Yeah, Needful Things. The plot sounds incredible to me, honestly. Anyways, this next one kind of interesting, in a way that you might notice. Pretty obvious. There is a receipt. I'm gonna take it out. It's my bookmark. So May 12th, 2019. More than 5 years ago. More than 5 years ago, I bought this for $8.49. Actually, for $9.19. It's Battle Royale. I remember reading this book. As you saw, I got pretty far in. This book is uh big. I got like more than 300 pages into it. And I remember reading this in like 3 days, in like that span 5 years ago. This is one of the books that like I was so interested in, and uh it just feels like it would be perfect for me. I love these kinds of stories. I love Danganronpa. I love 999. These kinds of like death games, which sounds pretty bad to be like really interested in, but whatever. I really loved this book. I read it expeditiously. I love this shit, but I didn't finish it. Do I remember why? No. I assume it's the usual reason. maybe what 2019. What games came out in 2019? Hold on, I have a computer right here. Okay. Interesting. Um, Something I forgot that happened in 2019. And what May would be in the summer. Uh, I went to college. I started college after the summer of 2019 at the end or in the middle of in August 2019. Maybe that was it. But also Sekiro came out in 2019. Death Stranding came out in 2019. And if Death Stranding comes out in 2019, that's probably the reason. I adore Death Stranding. So it's probably Death Stranding is what did it. Anyways, there's a chapter in this book, and now like it's unfair expectations now, um, but I remember a chapter in this book that made me feel genuine fear. I remember it very clearly. I remember reading it, and my heart was genuinely like it felt like it was beating out of my chest. Like it was so much. It was so like it's the chapter, and I'll recognize it when I get to it. It's a chapter about I believe a girl who's hiding under a table for a majority of the chapter, or maybe not a majority of the chapter, but maybe she does at some point. I just remember she's under the table, and that chapter like got me so good. It was so thrilling and scary to me, and I don't really remember like why I thought it was so thrilling, but I remember that it got me really good. It was really scary to me. I'm really excited about this one. This could be my next one. I bet I could finish this if I just really should really get into it. It the first half at least so fast paced. So fast paced. It really like blazed through. I read like I feel like I read more than 100 something pages in one day the first time I started reading it. It was crazy. I loved it. Anyways, that's Battle Royale by uh Koshun Takami. Koshun Takami. Actually, it's funny. I looked up on Goodreads. He only has done Battle Royale. Just Battle Royale. I don't know. This one also has a bookmark. It's House of Leaves by Mark Z. Danielewski. Uh, I convinced my mom to go halvesies on this book with me. I remember watching a video and I'm like, Mom, I think we have to buy this. It's a horror book, and she hasn't read it. She says she's interested in now though. I've talked about her recently. I was like, yeah, I have that book. She didn't remember buying it with me. We actually split it half and half. This book is pretty big, and I don't know how hard it is to read. Because I mean, like, some pages are like this, where it's just, some pages are like, have like one sentence on them. And I assume that at some point it's going to be not that hard to read. I'm really interested in this book. It feels monumental. Getting past this book, I feel like will be a big step in the journey for me. This book feels almost impossible sometimes. Thinking about it, I'm like, this book looks really hard. But I'm reading it. I started reading it, and I didn't show you, but I got like 160 pages in or so, and then I tapped out. Not because I didn't find it interesting. I was still pretty interested in it, but the writing felt up like extremely obtuse at times. I was really having trouble. Um, and I kind of feels like the point. And some of the writing I actually didn't find very captivating. I didn't find it like, oh, I just need like the one guy. It's been a long time actually. There's a guy who has a story where he is trying to decipher the writings of a madman, basically, as I remember it at least. And his part is really like there was one part that was like a horror part where he's like he just saw a monster, and I'm like, oh my god, he just saw a monster. And then the next part is like completely something else where he's at like this random store and he's just thinking about something. And I don't know. It was really strange to me. I was not in the right headspace to be reading it. It just didn't click with me. Which is fine. Funny enough, I went to Half Price Books uh to get books for um my wife's little sister. We got the second and third Dork Diaries, and I saw a a copy of The Familiar. I didn't really have money to get my own book, but man, if I did, I probably would have gotten The Familiar. I don't even know what people think about it. I like never heard about it. I never hear about it, but I looked inside. I was like, wow, it's he's still doing this crazy stuff. This is the one that I think might not count to some people, because some people might see it as a game, some people might see it as just a novel. Um, it's a visual novel, and I I mean it's reading words on a screen just like a Kindle, but like with visuals. And I don't know how people see that, but it is reading, and I'm going to put it on my reading list as I already started reading. This is one I'm currently reading right now. Um, as a prelude to what I'm reading right now. Years ago, actually maybe like a year ago, I finished reading Witch on the Holy Night. Witch on the Holy Night. This is a fantastic box um, that comes with this Magician's Basic Tune. It's mostly an art book. See, art, but at the back half ish, maybe not completely half, but there's a short story called The Honey Adventure, and it's like a continuation, not really a continuation, more like a side story, complementing the original uh, visual novel. And I read that recently. I read it like a few days ago, and man, it is good. The short story is fantastic. I love this is one of my favorite visual novels of all time because of how good it is. Witch on the Holy Night. The vibes are immaculate. The voice acting's immaculate. The story is fantastic. Everything is immaculate about this. It's incredible. Uh, it's almost. I feel like it's almost like a winter read. If it might be a winter read for me. I'm like, hey, I kind of want to. I don't go back because it has winter vibes and it's like takes place during the winter. It's snowing a lot and stuff like that. This is fantastic. I love it. This is not what I'm reading right now. As I said, I finished it. So, Tsukihime, A Piece of Blue Glass Moon, released about a week ago. And I've already started reading it. I've only read like an hour and a half, or probably less, honestly. Maybe like say like an hour, and I'm enjoying it so far. It's beautiful. It's one of it's they know how to make the visual novel work in terms of like making it a bit more than like sprites and text. They do a lot of like animation and FX, and they really make it like more. And I'm super excited about them, or excited about Tsukihime. Some I've been excited for a while, and man, I loved Witch on the Holy Night, and I'm not gonna put that pressure on Tsukihime, even though people like Tsukihime more than Witch on the Holy Night, and I'm like, how? How is it better? I don't know. I couldn't know because Witch on the Holy Night is so good, and maybe I'll just prefer Witch on the Holy Night because I read it first, and that's fair. I think that's fair. I'm reading that right now. And the other thing that I'm reading right now is The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. I couldn't help it. I couldn't help it. I had to. I felt like I had to. I was super interested in. Um, I kept getting Brandon Sanderson like lectures on my YouTube. And I'm like, this guy's really fucking smart. This guy knows what he's talking about. Let's read The Way of Kings. Wow, it's a very Brian Lee Durfee like. If you know, you know. Brian Lee Durfee. Anyways, I'm actually not not too not too not that slow into it. I'm in page 241 in the span of less than a week, which is surprising. That's a lot for me. That's, I mean, I'd be more than halfway done through this book. Granted, that's where that gets me. Almost more than halfway done through Red Rising. That's where that gets me in this book. I'm past book one. I'm past the interludes, and I'm in chapter 13, 10 Heartbeats. I'm excited. I'm so excited. This book is great so far. I really love Kaladin. I actually really love Syl. She's pretty cool. The Windsprint. She's what really interests me about Kaladin's story right now. Obviously, Kaladin also interests me. I think he's really interesting in a sort of like, are they going the way that I think they're going with this guy? Like he's kind of like depressed. He was going to like he was going to kill himself, but he was saved by Syl. And like I really like their relationship. She's mysterious, and she kind of like she obviously like keeps him going in a sort of strange way. And I find it really interesting. I'm really enjoying it. I also really like Shalene. I think it's I'll say Shalene. Um, I really like her story too. I find it really interesting that like I get a lot of content related to books on like every platform um, that I can get it. And I've actually heard a lot of people talking about how some of the fan base doesn't like Shalene. Granted, I'm only 241 pages into the entire series of only the first book, but like I'm like I don't know why they dislike her. I find it a little like questionable. I really enjoy her story so far, and I think she's likable and enjoyable to read. And uh, The Way of Kings. I've been reading it. Um, I've also been listening a little bit to a few audiobooks. One, Jurassic Park. Another, um, This is how you win the time war, or this is how you lose the time war. Yeah, this is how you lose the time war, which is a really short one, which I think I'll get through. I'm enjoying both so far. I think I'm enjoying Jurassic Park more, but I'm listening to This is how you lose the time war currently, or at least more than Jurassic Park, because it's shorter and I kind of want to get through it. I'm really interested in it. It sounds pretty good. But yeah, uh, that's my more than a week and a half of books. I got through Red Rising. I can I can finish Way of Kings. I know I can, and I will keep doing it. I may not finish by next week, and I may not have that much updates next week, but I'll still try to update you. I've been having a lot of fun reading. I guess I'll also update on you on Tsukihime as I get through it. If I like it, which I have a feeling I will really like it. But yeah, um, that's it. Thank you.